Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am so excited for today's deep dive because we are going to be talking all about the Renaissance,
Ooh, yes.
which is, of course, like the ultimate refresh, right? Like
Yeah.
Europe just decided to hit the reset button on basically everything.
Yep.
And the sources for this one, let me tell you, are just packed full of stories about powerful families,
Yeah,
incredible art, and like these just revolutionary ideas that honestly still kind of shape the world that we live in today.
absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting to see what we find.
I think one of the most interesting things about the Renaissance is that, when we say refresh,
Right.
it wasn't just like wiping the slate clean, right? The Renaissance, which means rebirth, if you didn't know, was really about rediscovering the ancient world.
Yeah.
So specifically, ancient Greece and Rome,
Okay.
their art, their literature, and their philosophy.
Gotcha.
It was like Europe went on this massive treasure hunt
Yeah.
through its own history.
I like that. Yeah, like digging through the attic and finding a box full of like amazing things they'd completely forgotten about.
Exactly.
Oh, that's good. And speaking of amazing things, our sources all point to like this renewed interest in human potential during the Renaissance.
Yes.
This thing called humanism, right?
And absolutely, what's
Where-
that all about?
So humanism was a huge shift in thinking,
Okay.
and it really emphasized the capabilities and the achievements of humans,
Hmm.
encouraging people to excel in many different areas, not just focusing on one specific thing.
Okay.
And it was about embracing like the full range of human experience and knowledge.
I see. So not just being like a one-trick pony,
Exactly.
but like striving to be well-rounded.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
So this wasn't just some like abstract idea floating around, right? There were actual people who championed this whole humanist thinking. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, well.
Figures like Petrarch, Erasmus of Rotterdam,
Okay.
and even the controversial Niccolo Machiavelli.
Ooh, Machiavelli all played a part in shaping humanist thought during the Renaissance.
Okay, well, let's start with Petrarch.
Okay.
What made him such a key figure in all of this?
Well, he was obsessed with ancient Roman scrolls.
I know that, yeah.
And he believed that these ancient texts held the key to unlocking human potential.
Hmm.
He saw them as guides to moral and intellectual growth.
Right.
Imagine being a scholar in the 14th century,
Yeah.
and you suddenly rediscover, like, Cicero's letters.
Whoa.
It would be like getting a glimpse into the mind of one of the greatest thinkers
Oh, wow, yeah.
of antiquity.
That's kind of awesome, like having a conversation across centuries.
Exactly.
So Petrarch was all about rediscovering these lost treasures and things.
Yes.
What about Erasmus?
So Erasmus.
I know he was kind of a bit of a religious reformer.
He was a
Is it?
scholar and a theologian.
Okay.
And he applied this humanist thinking to religion.
Hmm.
And he believed that the church had become too focused on rituals and dogma and had strayed from the true spirit of Christianity.
Okay.
So he was calling for, like, a return to the basics.
Like a reboot.
A reboot.
Okay.
Exactly.
I like it.
And his big move was creating a critical edition of the New Testament in its original Greek,
Oh, okay.
which allowed scholars to study the Bible
Right.
in a new light, forming their own interpretations and breaking free from centuries of church tradition.
Wow, that must have ruffled some feathers back then.
For sure.
Sounds like he was really like pushing the boundaries of religious thought at the time.
Yeah.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, we can't forget about Machiavelli
Of course not.
and his infamous book, The Prince.
Ah, yes.
Machiavelli.
That was a lightning rod, even back then.
Really?
Oh, yeah, okay.
In The Prince, he argued that rulers should be pragmatic, even cunning if they wanted to maintain power.
So he wasn't exactly advocating for, like, nice guys finish first.
Not quite.
Okay.
He believed that morality, while important...
Shouldn't be the only guiding principle for a ruler.
Okay.
Sometimes a ruler needs to make,
Tough choices.
tough choices, even if they're not morally perfect,
Right.
for the good of the state.
I see. So that's a pretty radical idea, especially for that time period.
Yeah,
I can see why his work sparked so much debate.
for sure.
So we have these incredible thinkers, each one like pushing the boundaries of knowledge,
Right.
challenging the status quo in their own way.
Yeah,
It's amazing to think about like the ripple effect of their ideas.
absolutely.
But I'm also curious about the art of this period,
Ook.
especially those iconic masterpieces that we all know and love.
Yeah.
Did this whole humanist thinking impact the art world as well?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to even picture the Renaissance without thinking about like Michelangelo's David
Right.
or Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, you know.
Yeah.
It feels like those works capture the essence of humanism in some way.
You're right. I think there is a definite connection there. Renaissance art went beyond just depicting religious themes, you know? It celebrated the beauty and the complexity of the human form.
Okay.
Like, think about the realism in those paintings.
Yeah.
The emotions that are conveyed in those sculptures. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a reflection of that humanist belief in the power and potential of humanity.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about art, right?
Yeah.
What about like the whole scientific revolution that was happening around the same time?
Oh, yeah.
Were those breakthroughs also influenced by this humanist thinking, do you think?
Absolutely. The Renaissance saw a huge surge in scientific discovery.
Whoa.
Think Copernicus and Galileo, right?
Right.
Challenging the Earth-centered view of the universe.
Whoa, yeah.
It took a lot of courage,
Yeah.
a willingness to question long-held beliefs, and that's like a
Yeah.
hallmark of humanist thought.
So while artists were exploring the beauty of the human form,
Yes.
scientists were pushing the boundaries of what we knew about, like the universe itself.
Yeah.
It's like this whole humanist thinking was fueling this revolution
Yes.
in both art and science.
A revolution in how people thought.
Right.
It was a time of just immense intellectual curiosity,
Okay,
and it extended to every aspect of life,
I see.
from the human body to the stars in the sky.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that curiosity also led to some, like, new discoveries
Of course.
in other fields, not just art and science, right?
You're absolutely right.
Like what?
This humanist spirit extended to things like education,
Okay.
politics,
Mm.
even just like how people approached their roles in society.
I see.
It was all about using knowledge and reason to improve,
Right.
the human condition.
Okay, so let's get into that a little bit more. Like, how did this humanist thinking actually, like, change things? Did people start living differently because of it?
Well, take education, for example.
Okay.
Before the Renaissance, education was largely reserved for the elite and
Right.
focused mainly on, religious texts. But humanists believe that everyone, regardless of their social status, should have access to a broader range of knowledge.
Okay.
They pushed for a curriculum that included like literature, history, philosophy, the humanities, as we call them now.
Right.
They believed that studying these subjects would help people develop their full potential.
So they were advocating for, like, a more well-rounded education.
Exactly. And it's amazing how many of our modern educational ideals
Right.
have roots in the Renaissance.
Well,
And this emphasis on human potential had a huge impact on civic life.
Okay.
Humanists believed that individuals had a duty to contribute to their communities,
Mm.
to use their talents and their knowledge for the greater good.
So it was about more than just personal growth. It was about
Yeah.
using that growth to, like, make a positive impact on society.
That's the essence of it.
Mm.
And this idea that, individuals have both the right and the responsibility to participate in shaping their society. That's like a foundational principle of modern democracies.
Wow, that's incredible to think how these ideas that might seem abstract at first
Yeah.
actually had this tangible impact on, like, how societies evolved and things.
It really shows the power of ideas to change the world.
Yeah.
And the influence of the Renaissance continues to resonate with us today.
Okay.
Our modern emphasis on individual expression,
Right.
personal growth,
Yeah.
and the pursuit of knowledge, those values have such deep roots in that period.
Yeah. So in a way, we're all like inheritors of this Renaissance legacy.
In a way, yes.
That's kind of an empowering thought, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we have the potential to shape our own destinies, to contribute to the world in meaningful ways, just like those Renaissance thinkers and artists did all those centuries ago.
And speaking of those thinkers and artists,
Yeah.
let's circle back to something we touched on earlier,
Yeah.
the whole rediscovery of those ancient texts.
All right.
Our sources really emphasize how pivotal that was for the Renaissance.
It was like finding a lost library.
Yeah.
This treasure trove of knowledge
Oh.
just waiting to be rediscovered.
Yeah.
Imagine being a scholar
Right.
and suddenly having access to the works of Plato, Aristotle, Cicero.
Oh, wow.
It's like you can have a conversation with some of the greatest minds of antiquity.
It's like they were time travelers, bringing these, like, ancient ideas back to life.
Yes.
And making them, like, relevant for their own time.
Exactly.
But they weren't just like passively absorbing these texts, right?
Oh, no.
What was they doing with this stuff?
They were actively engaging with them,
Yeah.
debating them,
Right.
reinterpreting them.
Yeah.
They didn't see these texts as like these sacred relics,
Right.
but as starting points for
Yeah.
new lines of inquiry.
So it was about more than just reading old books. It was about
Yeah.
using them as inspiration
Exact.
to like fuel new ideas.
Yes.
Discoveries.
Yes. The Renaissance thinkers took those ancient ideas and made them their own.
Ugh.
They adapted them,
Yeah.
challenged them, used them as springboards for their own
Okay.
creative and intellectual explorations.
And that spirit of creative exploration, it's something we see so clearly in Renaissance art, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The art of the Renaissance wasn't just about copying the styles of the past.
Yeah.
It was about innovating, experimenting,
Mm-hmm.
pushing the boundaries of artistic expression.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was fueled by, like, the patronage system
Right.
at the time,
Right.
wealthy families like the Medici
Yes.
invested heavily in art and in artists,
Okay.
fostering this whole climate of creativity and competition.
So those patrons were like the venture capitalists
Kind of, yeah.
of the Renaissance art world.
You could say that.
I like it.
They saw the value in supporting artists,
Yeah.
and they saw art as a way to enhance their own prestige,
Right.
leave a lasting legacy.
Yeah. And that investment paid off in a big way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the art of the Renaissance
Yes.
is one of its most enduring legacies.
For sure.
It's amazing to think about how
Yeah.
all these different pieces fit together. Like
Yeah.
the rediscovery of ancient texts,
Yeah.
the rise of humanism, the patronage system.
It all contributed
Yeah.
to this incredible explosion of creativity in the arts.
It's like all these forces like converged
Yeah.
at just the right moment
Mm-hmm.
to create this like perfect storm
Yeah.
of artistic innovation.
Absolutely.
And that same spirit of innovation
Yeah.
was driving the scientific revolution too.
That was happening at the same time.
Yeah, you can't really separate those two threads, can you?
I don't think so.
The art and the science.
Yeah.
They were both expressions of this same like
Yeah.
spirit of inquiry and discovery
Right.
that defined the Renaissance.
It's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Whether it was painting a masterpiece or mapping the stars, it was all driven by this insatiable thirst for knowledge
Yeah.
and a belief in the power of human reason to understand the world around us.
And that thirst for knowledge led to some pretty revolutionary breakthroughs in science too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you have Copernicus
Yeah.
proposing a heliocentric model of the solar system,
Right.
and Galileo making these groundbreaking observations
Yeah.
with his telescope.
Those were
Radical ideas.
challenging centuries of accepted knowledge.
Yeah, but they were ultimately accepted because they were based on
Yes,
observation
yes, yeah.
evidence. And that in itself is kind of a testament to the power of the Renaissance spirit, don't you think?
I think so.
It wasn't just about accepting what had always been believed.
Right.
It was about questioning,
Yeah.
testing, searching for truth,
Yes.
even if that meant overturning these long-held assumptions.
It was a period of intellectual upheaval,
Yeah.
but also a period of tremendous progress.
And that progress wasn't just limited to a few individuals.
Right.
It was disseminated,
Okay.
shared, and spread through a variety of channels.
Okay, I'm curious about that. Like, how did these revolutionary ideas actually spread?
Okay.
I mean, was there like a Renaissance version of the internet where people could like share their thoughts and discoveries and things?
Not quite the internet,
No,
but
right.
there were definitely factors that helped spread these ideas.
Like what?
Well, the rise of these powerful city-states,
Mm.
like Florence and Venice,
Okay.
played a crucial role.
How so?
They became hubs for trade,
Okay.
cultural exchange,
Right.
and intellectual discourse.
Gotcha.
Artists, scholars, and thinkers from all over Europe
Right.
flocked to these centers,
Mhm.
bringing with them new ideas and perspectives.
So it was like a Renaissance brain drain with the brightest minds like converging in these urban centers.
Yeah,
But ideas can't just stay in one place.
right.
So how did they spread from these urban centers to the rest of Europe?
One word, printing press.
Ah, the printing press.
It was a revolutionary invention for disseminating knowledge.
Oh.
Suddenly, books, pamphlets, even sheet music
Right.
could be produced quickly and in large quantities,
Ah, yeah.
making information more accessible
Right.
and affordable than ever before.
That's amazing. It's like the Renaissance equivalent of like going viral, right?
Kind of.
I imagine like being able to read the latest treatise on humanism or
Yeah.
get your hands on a newly printed copy of Machiavelli's The Prince.
Yeah.
It must have been so exciting to be part of that.
It was a time of rapid change
Right.
and
Yeah.
intellectual ferment.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just happening in one isolated corner of Europe. It was spreading across borders,
Okay.
fueled by trade, travel, and these personal networks.
Right.
Scholars were writing letters to each other,
Yeah, I mean,
debating new ideas.
Right.
Artists were traveling to different cities,
Hmm.
bringing with them new techniques and styles.
I see.
It was this truly interconnected world
Wow.
of intellectual and artistic exchange.
That's amazing to think about how much the world changed during the Renaissance.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about, like, the other side of the coin.
Okay.
Were there any downsides to all this progress?
Hmm.
Like, were there any shadows lurking behind all this brilliance, you know?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And the answer, as with most things in history, I think, is complex.
Right.
While the Renaissance was undoubtedly a period of tremendous progress,
Yeah.
it wasn't without its limitations and contradictions.
Like what?
Well, one of the biggest criticisms leveled against it
Okay.
is that its benefits were largely confined to the elite.
So while, like, the wealthy were commissioning masterpieces and debating philosophy,
Yeah.
the vast majority of people were still struggling to survive.
That's one way to look at it.
Right.
The Renaissance was fueled by patronage,
Right.
which meant that artists, scholars, and scientists
relied on the support of wealthy individuals or institutions. This created a system where access to knowledge and opportunities
Right.
for creative expression
Yeah.
were often limited
Okay.
to those who could afford them.
So like a Renaissance gap
Kind of.
between the haves and the have-nots?
You could say that.
I see.
And this gap wasn't just economic.
Yeah.
It was intellectual.
Right.
The humanist ideal of, like, the well-rounded individual,
Yeah.
skilled in multiple disciplines, that was largely an aspiration for the elite.
Right.
For most people,
Yeah.
life was still very much dictated by the practical concerns of daily survival.
It's a good reminder that even the most transformative periods in history
Right.
are rarely without their complexities and
Yes, it's-
inequalities, right?
Yeah.
But even with all these caveats,
Yeah.
the impact of the Renaissance is undeniable, right?
Absolutely. Its legacy is woven into the very fabric of our modern world. Our art, our science, our political systems.
Yeah. Even our educational ideals.
Okay, before we wrap up this incredible journey through the Renaissance,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Okay.
Like, what's the essence of this period that continues to resonate with us today?
Well, I think what strikes me the most is that the Renaissance, it wasn't just a moment in time. It was like a mindset, this spirit of inquiry and innovation that I think still inspires us today. It's a reminder that we all have the potential to challenge assumptions,
Right.
push boundaries,
Yeah.
and create a world that celebrates human potential.
Yeah, it makes you kind of wonder
Yeah.
what, like, a similar rebirth might look like in our own time.
Right.
I mean, we're surrounded by so much information, so many challenges
Yeah.
and opportunities.
I feel like we're on the cusp of something big.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like we need a new renaissance to help us, like,
Nice.
navigate this complex world we live in. And speaking of navigation, this deep dive has taken us on quite a journey.
It has.
We've explored the ideas, the art, the science,
Yeah.
even the complexities of this amazing period in history.
Right.
But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with something to ponder,
I like that.
like a little spark to ignite their own Renaissance spirit.
Ooh, I love that idea.
What if,
Yeah.
what if we challenged our listeners to think about what they would like to see reborn
Okay.
in our modern world?
Yes.
So here's the question
Okay.
for all of you deep divers out there.
All right.
If the Renaissance was all about rediscovering and rebirthing knowledge and ideas from the past,
Yeah.
what area of knowledge or skill would you like to see experience a rebirth
Ooh.
in our modern world?
I like that.
What's that one thing you'd love to see, like, dusted off, re-examined, given new life?
Right.
Maybe it's an ancient philosophy that's been forgotten, a lost art form, or even like a scientific principle that's been overlooked.
Got it.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
we encourage you to embrace that Renaissance spirit
Yes.
of curiosity and exploration
I love it.
and see what treasures you can unearth.
Exactly. Who knows? You might even spark a mini renaissance
Ooh.
of your own.
I like it.
Yeah, and remember, the pursuit of knowledge and the celebration of human potential,
Right.
those are timeless endeavors
Hmm.
in a world that often feels overwhelmed by information and rapid change.
Yeah.
I think we could all benefit from a little bit of that Renaissance spirit.
Yeah, like the courage to question,
Yes,
the passion for discovery,
absolutely.
the belief in the power of ideas to shape a better future.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, to all our fellow deep divers out there,
Yeah.
keep exploring, keep questioning,
Keep learning.
and never stop learning.
Yes.
Until next time, stay curious.